No, it really is great to be here, and I'd like to begin by thanking the elder for that opening prayer and for the lesson on protocol. I think that's always important for us to remember that tradition and sound practice leads to the best results. So that was, and the words were very powerful and inspirational. And thank you to the Chief for your opening comments too. Many of your thoughts I share, and especially in terms of making a difference for the children. You know, my opening introduction there about this new Ministry of Human Services talks how big it is now, and it truly is a very, very large ministry. So I really appreciate coming here because this is where my roots are. I really care most about this business, the work that makes a difference in the lives of children. So thanks to David for inviting me today and allowing me to give a few thoughts and opening remarks on behalf of myself and Minister Dave Hancock. You know, I'm pleased to see that this forum really is all about how we are all connected to each other, how we're connected to our environment and our future. And it's essential as we go forward with transformation of social policy in Alberta. We need to understand how we are connected. And we need to understand how knowledge and wisdom will allow us to be successful as we do move forward. And we need to examine how we can build on our relationships and focus on maintaining the cultural roots that the Chief talked about in our child welfare system. And I look forward to hearing later about the comments and conversations that will take place today, especially I want to hear what our keynote speakers have to say. Dr. Cindy Blackstock, who has been one of the country's most committed and vocal activists for First Nations children for over 20 years. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. And Dr. Patty Lubacan Benson, who is deeply committed to researching Aboriginal family resilience and healing. I read a quote from the doctor that I thought was really appropriate for today. And then he wrote, in all of our research, the elders and knowledge keepers were united in their message, we need to work together. The essential relationships between cultures, nations, and communities requires renewal and repair if we are to move forward. I think that's absolutely spot on and part of what you're doing today, because this forum is one of the bridges that'll help us move forward and impact what we do around this province. This year, the attendance at this event has grown, and a variety of other partners have joined us. I understand there's other CFSAs in here, board chairs, or DFNA partners, contracted agencies, as well as a rich group of Aboriginal partners. So it's great to see the diversity and the growing of this forum. Your timing's great in my mind. It's great because we've just gone through an exercise to develop a social policy framework for Alberta. All that document was trying to describe what it means to be an Albertan, what it means to be part of this province. We have economic policy, we have our environmental policy, but we never really talked about what it meant to be an Albertan. And the policy talked about some fundamental principles that I think will guide the conversations today and guide what we do every day in this province. And what we heard was Albertans desire greater collaboration and partnerships between communities and government. Albertans want us to focus on reducing inequity, protecting vulnerable people, and creating a system of high-quality supports and services that focus on the needs of the family and the individual. And we're working in our ministry and across government on a number of policy shifts to achieve these goals. These shifts include balancing prevention and intervention. To me, all that means is how do we keep the children in the family rather than go to the crisis mode of apprehending kids. And we need to do much better on that front. We're trying to create a system of supports that puts people first, one that isn't all about rules. It's about strong families. It's about looking at the whole person, not what their deficiencies are, but what their strengths are. And it's a system focused on outcomes, quality, values, and dignity. That's moving away from a rules-based system to allow people to make the right decisions based on their judgment and wisdom, not that they checked all the right boxes. The minister speaks often of that, and that's a direction we want to head in, and I think a direction that's going to be very beneficial for the Aboriginal community. And we are committed to working with you to implement the transformational change and to achieve positive outcomes outcomes for all Albertans. Now, I'm not a very patient man, but I recognize that real change takes time. We still have a long ways to go, but I'm seeing some evidence that gives me hope. I'm happy to report that for the first time in memory, the number of Aboriginal kids in care has actually gone down. From December 2011 to December 2012, the number of Aboriginal in care actually went down 3%. A small step in the right direction. So I'm pleased to see we are making some progress. And we continue to learn from our successes. The efforts were done around strengthening the role of the band designate. The outcomes-based service delivery model that focuses on an Aboriginal culturally sensitive model is I think, showing that there's going to be some successes if we continue down this path. And the key thing for me is we can't let all the challenges stop us from focusing on what we're doing right and stop us from moving forward with more rules or whatever. The other important thing for me is that we assisted with the return of over 1,100 Aboriginal children to their family. And the chief talked about that. This idea that, and what I hear when I go across this province from Aboriginal leaders and communities is we want our children to come home. And to me, that's another positive number, that we're able to allow the children to go home and not go into permanent care in another country or in a community that doesn't recognize their values, their principles, and their cultures. So family reunification is a big part of our business and a goal that we all aspire to. And so with this positive early indicators, we should have hope. It should encourage you to continue these conversations. The community conversations we've been having across this province have talked about some of the issues around the systemic challenges we need to address. We can't just focus on sort of when things go wrong, how can we build stronger communities? How can we create the capacity in those communities to be successful? How can we help parents with the skills they need to be strong role models for their children? So we're learning lots, and we're applying that knowledge to make a difference. One of the things I looked at was some of the themes that came out of last year's forum. And I think they still resonate. I still think that they reflect where we want to head. It talked about the system must be family-focused. That's a principle that resonates very powerfully in the Aboriginal community. I'd argue in most communities. The fact that we need to work better together. We need to build trust in those relationships that allow us to move forward and not doubt each other. Another theme was our practices and decisions need to be inclusive of Aboriginal culture. Again, some of our work on the band designate and cultural awareness for all our workers, recruiting more Aboriginal people into our ministry, working closer with the DFNAs. These are all pieces that will reinforce that direction. Again, we need increased community capacity and programming. That's a critical issue in my mind. How can we strengthen that preventative side of the business and not pour millions and millions of dollars into treatment that isn't that successful a lot of times? And finally, we need to have increased awareness of the historical trauma. If we don't deal with the systemic issues around colonialism, residential schools, and the pain that's created, the trauma that's created, we're going to have a lot of trouble moving forward in a sustainable way. So the other thing we must do is we must focus on breaking down barriers and trying different approaches. And today's that sort of forum. Brings all the communities together to have those conversations, the learning circles. We need to do that. And we need to be creative. This is an exciting time. We have a minister who's encouraging us to try new things, to be bold. He says rules are for when brains run out. That we got to allow people to exercise judgment, that we got to be prepared to look at new ideas around how to deal with family issues, new definitions of when we should become involved, new tolerances. So I think we got to take advantage of that sort of flexibility and that challenge that the minister has given us all. So I want to thank you all in advance and commend you for collectively sharing your stories. and thoughts today as we work together to address the complex issues in the child welfare systems. I'd also like to thank the board and co-chairs for the support of this forum. This is good work. As well as the planning committee, because it always takes many people to make this happen, for all its efforts. So the conversations from this conference will continue to drive the necessary change. I absolutely believe that, and I hope you feel that as you participate today. Because I sincerely believe that through these conversations we'll build the relationships and the trust that will carry us to a better future for our children. So thank you very much and have a great day.